So we're going to go through with you sort of our journey in developing comprehensive K-12, actually PK-12, social emotional curriculum in district. And we'll start by saying that this all came out of our superintendent's vision for whole child education for every one of our students, and the importance that she placed on their social emotional growth and development as equal to their academic growth and development. So our curriculum has been developed based on the idea that it should be a comprehensive SEL curriculum from PK to 12, and that it should focus on three things. It should be developed so that there's a change in school climate. There should be direct instruction of the SEL curriculum, as well as incorporated into the everyday instruction that occurs in the classroom. And so we like to call this the teachable moment. So our curriculum that was developed can be used both as isolated lessons, but also incorporated into everything we do around literacy, numeracy, you name it. It can be incorporated throughout the day. So your agenda and what you're going to hear from during our hour together will be, first, we'll give you an overview. We'll talk about why we developed our SEL curriculum, what it looks like, how we monitor it, how we utilize our partners and in the community and within the district to support the work, and then we'll take some questions at the end. And I'll call up Ms. Ryan Langer to take it from here.
Hi, everyone. So as most of you know, SEL was really gaining significant public traction for quite a few years now, specifically after the passing of the legislation in 2015, the Every Student Succeeds Act. So this act really contains several provisions that really called for student engagement, focus on social emotional, and this really was well fitting in our district at a good time when we were trying to make the move to whole child wellness. Move to educating the whole child, as Amy started to say. So to get started, we were in good shape because we had the Safe Schools, Healthy Students grant, which brought us all here today as well. And this grant really allowed us to take a deep dive into this field and really get a sense of what was going on. So we were able to attend 2 national conferences hosted by the Center for School Mental Health. At both of those conferences, really the center of every conversation around SEL, a lot of it came down to CASEL. So we started to wonder, well, what is CASEL? What do they stand for? And we quickly found out that they were really a leader in this field, and they had developed these 5 CASEL competencies, which their studies showed is what a student needs, what student or adult, any person really would need to be successful in this way. So at this time, it was about fall of 2016. We knew we wanted to build a curriculum. We knew that CASEL was really the leader in this work, but we also knew we had all these great programs happening in New Britain. How many of you work in education in this room? So how many of you would say, would you agree with the statement that it is pretty common in education that you'll do one thing for a couple years and then the new words come or the new program comes and you have to throw it away and kind of start from scratch and go to new professional development or make new minutes out of nothing in your day for it? So we didn't want to just bring CASEL in and roll in a new thing. We were like, we like well-managed schools that we were doing with Boys Town. We like the work we're doing with East Count around play. We like working with the Honor Grace Project. But we knew that with all of this work, there was still significant gaps. So how did we get our students and our teachers to a place where they were prepared to do this, but we weren't asking them to forget everything we already did? And we couldn't do that. So we decided to take our staff time, significant staff time at central office, and build our own curriculum. So we based it around the CASEL competencies to kind of make an outline for a framework of what we would like to do. We aligned it to the Connecticut strands of social, emotional, intellectual habits framework, our CSDNB core values, as well as those priorities I mentioned for those partners. Later in this presentation, I'm going to talk more about the partnership role in this work and how they really help it now that it's already launched. But as we're talking about the building of it, looking to make sure that they were that this work was only helping them and not contradicting any of our projects was a major goal in the beginning. And finally, we made sure that everything that we were focusing on aligned to our district success measures. And none of these are new, so I'm sure these are the same data points that your districts are looking at. So now that I kind of gave you the background as to why and how we started to build this, we're going to move into the presentation a little bit about what it actually looks like PK-12. So we'll start with the comprehensive approach, and we'll bring Amy back up.
So as we started with the organizing and outline of what the curriculum would look like, you know, the pyramid model or the triangle is no stranger or secret to everyone sitting in this room about the different tiers of support. And so we took the tiered approach, and our curriculum for that reason is very comprehensive in that there's curriculum developed that addresses the needs of all the students, whether they're in need of Tier 1 instruction, Tier 2 instruction, or Tier 3 instruction. So the difference is, tying back to what Ryan said, is that we didn't abandon anything we had already started to do. Instead, we took all of the partnerships that we had and the initiatives that we've been using in district, and we put them into one of the 3 tiers and then enhanced what was already there and made it more comprehensive. So if you look at what's sort of living at the bottom, in the bottom part of the triangle, we still have our partnership with the Anna Grace Project. We have a health and a PE curriculum. We have well-managed schools and classrooms and their systems of support for social skills development in the classrooms. We have our Look for the Good campaign, and then we've built, our piece of it is the SEL curriculum and the advisory piece from PK to 8. In the middle tier, we have specialized instruction for small groups of students that need social skills work or students that need individualized behavior plans. And then, of course, at the top, we have that very small percentage of students who need specialized classroom instruction or partnerships with community mental health providers. So using our pyramid and taking this approach, we started to actually get down to the work of developing a curriculum using a variety of resources. And one thing I want to say before I turn it over to the 2 ladies who had a very large hand in developing the actual curriculum was, I'm sure you all know that there's plenty of curricula that could be purchased out there, whether under various names. And I'm sure just as when the Common Core first came on the scene, everyone liked to put that CCSS aligned stamp on the top of their product and try to sell it to you. As SEL gets more popular in its use among educators, I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to call themselves, oh, this is the perfect social emotional curriculum. But we decided that it would be better to sort of customize it for our district and take the best of what we already are doing, along with some really good curricula that's out there, and put it together to make a more comprehensive curriculum for our district, PK-12. So, Christine Anne-Marie.
So I have props. What we did was we started with pre-K to 3, and we had 4 working groups, 1 for each grade. We invited administrators, school psychologists, social workers, and classroom teachers to design what we were going to do for our lessons. We started with the elementary. We have 15 lessons for every grade. The 16th lesson is the state sexual abuse and assault, that lesson. We're not going to talk about that today. So in pre-K to 3, these 15 lessons are broken down amongst 3 for each of the CASEL competencies. And when we designed, let's take a quick, you can see that this is what it looks like when you go onto our curriculum website for our teachers. They're able to pick whichever lesson they would like to, or whatever lesson they need at the time. and go through it. Each of our lessons are about 20 minutes and can be expanded and go longer than that. We have resources in each lesson to have them go longer if they choose to. We thought about, the teachers who were designing the lessons thought about time and what it would actually look like. Each grade level, every classroom gets a book box. And in it are books that we would read already, or books that teachers might have in the library, but we wanted to make sure everyone had a book. Every one of the books that has a YouTube video with someone reading that book aloud is also connected or hyperlinked into the lesson. So teachers, if they don't want to read the book, they can have they can come in from recess and have that playing. That was one of the things that we thought about, how to best give teachers choices and options. The lessons are not, as Amy had said earlier, they're not in any particular order, although some of the lessons are better suited toward the beginning of the year because they're team building lessons and things that teachers would do naturally at the beginning of the year. So to go back to this slide. For fourth grade, we designed that this year. Fourth and fifth grade together, we designed this year. What we thought was, as our fourth grade, we have 10 lessons instead of 15, and the time for the other 5 is spent doing a project in their building. So it's a kind of an in-school project. And our idea was that as they've gone through pre-K through 3, learning about all the CASEL competencies, they're now going to apply them working in groups. So that we have the idea that they're going to be a project. For example, they may be making a video for the incoming kindergartners. That's their classroom project. They're going to need a director. They're going to need a script writer. They're going to need an organizer. So they will take the competencies that they've been learning about and apply them during group work. For fifth grade, we have them reading one book, Wish Tree. And for that, they will be doing a project outside of, outside of the classroom. So it would be something in the community or something, we have them doing, I can't think of the word, toys for animals and shelters. We have them doing cards for veterans at holiday time. So we gave the teachers a menu of different options, and we've also set them up through Ryan, has made contact with different organizations so that all the teacher has to do is send an email, and that person already knows what our district is doing. So this is what the lesson plan would look like, and it takes the teachers through, obviously, a regular lesson plan. And if you look at the lesson alignment, you can see every lesson is aligned to the core values, it's aligned to the well-managed schools, and it's aligned if it's to the Honor Grace project focuses also. So we cross-aligned everything that we're doing. Also, we are continuing to build this, and we're having teachers be able to add suggestions on curricula-based materials, books that the students are already reading as part of the curriculum, or activities that they're also doing that we will tie together. They can submit things and we can tie them together. We have created also a document or a form for the teachers to give us feedback and to add any lessons or suggestions to lessons that they want to add in so that we can keep those lines of communication open during the first few years of our rollout.
So what about grades 6 through 8? In grades 6 through 8, we've actually been doing advisories for the last few years. And when we started talking about social emotional learning and the CASEL competencies, we realized so much of what we were doing in advisory already aligned with those things. So it was going in and taking a look at what did we have and what areas did we need to work on. So for the middle schools, they actually have advisory each week. Each of our middle schools does it maybe a little differently than the others. One is a 45-minute block. One does 2 half-hour blocks. And then one school actually has their teachers loop with their students. And I've had the chance to talk to some of those teachers, and they actually really like it. They like to be able to loop with them and have those same kids the second or third year around. So it's been kind of an interesting, even within our own district, trying to meet the needs within the buildings is always a little bit different. Things that they are covering, they're covering study skills. They're covering habits of mind, bullying, cyberbullying. And all of these topics end up being looked at in each year. We build on them. So it's not just once and done. It's okay, we did this in 6th grade. Let's look at it again in 7th grade. So all these topics kind of come around. They also have academic and social emotional goal setting. They talk about what things are they struggling with academically, what things are they good at. Same thing with social emotional. Look at the well-managed skills. Which of those are ones that maybe you struggle with, or which ones do you feel you're really strong in? And then talk about those. And then school community service. Each advisory can kind of choose what do they want to do. Do they want to do a school or community service project? And then they reflect on that as well. So all of this within the advisory piece also covers the student success plan that students are required to have in grades 6 through 12. So advisory rolls in the SEL and the student success plan all into one, as well as hitting a lot of those topics our students need. So unlike the elementary school, in the elementary school, they really have more choice of when they do their lessons. In the middle school, it is more aligned. We did them by month. This is partly also because you'll notice that some lessons require a Chromebook. So the schools have to kind of rotate their Chromebooks around so everyone can get them. So we had to kind of stagger our lessons. So I'm going to go back to the lesson plan, I hope. So again, this is available on the conference website. So this is elementary. So this is the middle school one. It is separated by each month and each week. And it is very flexible within it that teachers can adjust it to meet the needs of their students. So we try to give them additional resources. If they're talking about career opportunities, we put in additional resources for them to refer to, because if they have students in their class that are really interested in one area, and then you want to talk about, goal setting and want to become a professional football player or a professional dancer, it's talking about having the grit and having the, what really is the statistics to show what those kind of getting there. So that's basically, they'll end up with an entire month, the entire year's worth of lessons. And then the lesson plan is actually set up just like the elementary school. Everything within this advisory lesson is self-contained. The teachers do not need to find anything else if they don't want to, or make copies. Everything is self-contained within the lesson. It comes with a presentation, and again, kind of a step-by-step what to do, suggestions for conversations, and then there's also additional resources, often tied to literature and poetry and a variety of things, again, to talk about these topics. I think that's the last, okay. Let me go back to the presentation. Okay. And I'm going to turn it back over to Amy.
So you can see that one of the biggest things we kept in mind throughout our development process was what the classroom teacher has time for. And because oftentimes they'll say, oh, how am I going to squeeze this in? So the elementary lessons are very brief, very short. They focus on one specific CASEL competency or one skill. They're designed to sort of be, there's no specific sequence that has to be followed, and we're hoping that they pull them during the teachable moments. If they're just coming in from recess and clearly there's been a situation that happened outside where two students didn't get along, or that's a specific skill that aligns with one of the SEL lessons, it's a perfect time to pull it out and embed it right then in that part of the day. And then at the middle school level, even you might think there's more opportunities for time. Sometimes there's even less opportunities for time. So if an advisory period already existed, it was the natural place to then embed the social emotional lessons into the advisory period and make it sort of more age appropriate. So you're talking not just about social skills, but also habits of mind and other things that middle schoolers have to start to pay more attention to when they get up to high school, sort of be on track for a career. So our curriculum lives in two places in district. In New Britain, we have an online curriculum platform that we purchased a few years back. It's called Build Your Own Curriculum. But it's really just an online platform where all curriculum can be housed. And the nice part about the platform is that you can access it anywhere that you have an internet connection or can access it through our district website. In addition to teachers being able to access it, community and families are also able to access it as well. They can access most of the unit components, so they can, allows for some transparency between the district and the community and the families about what our promise is for, as far as content and curriculum that's covered in all of the subject areas, our promise to families, and this is what your students will be learning throughout the year. In addition, the SEL curriculum is also housed in a special Google website that was created just for SEL, and that makes it easier for teachers to access and click on the links and get the attachments and all that stuff. And because it's multi-grade level in the one spot in the Google platform, it makes it easier for teachers to access materials. And both of those things were shared with you, I believe, on the conference website, so you'll be able to see all of that stuff when you log in to the conference website. One more thing I wanted to say is that the teachers, when they go into the Google platform, most of the stuff, there's links to other things. There's links to videos, there's links to the lesson plans. So like Christy and Anne-Marie were explaining, you don't really need copies of anything. You just need to pull up the sample lesson and click on the links, and it will bring you to whatever you want to use there. So it's, these two ladies are very tech savvy, so they set something up for the teachers that just makes ease of use wonderful. So and there's always a few in every district that can do something like that. That would not be me. So when it came to monitoring the implementation of our curriculum, we did it in two ways. First, as was mentioned, we put a feedback form out there in the form of a Google form, which then the responses would get loaded into one spot so we could monitor some of the feedback. We look at it frequently with the idea that we'll make any adjustments that the teachers feel are necessary moving forward. The other way it was monitored is that the expectation, well, wait a minute, no, that's not here. Mini observation, I think that's, so in our teacher evaluation platform, we moved from, rather than 2 or 3 like extended observations for teachers, we moved to multiple smaller observations or mini observations. So most teachers receive like 6 mini observations throughout the year, almost like a walkthrough or an instructional round. But one of those, one of the focuses of one of the minis is on a social emotional lesson that they're either instructing or a CASEL competency that they're working on with their students. So that's one way that we're monitoring some of the implementation as well as the feedback doc that we look at fairly frequently.
All right, so this image really illustrates the key partnerships between several key sectors in our community. And the beauty of the SEL lessons really was that the identified values from all of these organizations are now working together at the same time instead of competing for time throughout the day in any classroom or school, after school, whatever it may be. By embedding these lessons into it, we really became a powerful piece at the core for us. Now this also did a couple other things which we didn't really anticipate originally in the beginning. So if you're implementing any program, whether it be well-managed schools, anything that you're doing, I'm sure that people in your district or yourselves would say that it's very difficult, whether you're a medium-sized district like New Britain, we have about 10,000 students, 10 elementary schools, 2 large middle schools, and 1 very large high school. It's very difficult at the administrative level or at central office to really understand or know how are things being implemented in the classroom. You purchase these programs, you put them out there, but what's actually happening in the classroom. So by building this curriculum, we were really able to really build the time into the day of this is when teachers can access these materials, this is when they're doing it, and this is how they relate to one another instead of competing for time in the day. So it became a nice fidelity check for us in that way. One other thing I want to say about these partners is we have a very robust coalition in New Britain that we met with throughout the process of writing this curriculum throughout the way. And the coalition has now recently purchased, they work with the Weikart Center for Social Emotional Learning, and they've trained all after-school providers in SEL to really take this work that we're doing during the school day into the after-school programs for our children. So how did we get here? I don't want anyone to be sitting here thinking, wow, I can go home today and build a whole curriculum. It's going to roll out, and I want you guys to really see like what the work is that went behind this. So if you're thinking about doing it. So we started with a planning year with the Safe Schools, Healthy Students grant, conducted the Search Institute survey to really gauge what our students and staff attitudes and behaviors were. We then launched well-managed schools in 5 of those 10 elementary schools and began working with EastCon. EA Ashton-Brenner actually presented with some of our staff, if anybody saw that this morning, on the importance of play and developmentally appropriate practices. So we launched those 2 things at the same time over 2 years, trained all 10 of our elementary schools in both well-managed and developmentally appropriate practices. Around that same time is when we started to really dive deeper into what is going on with CASEL, recognize where the gaps are in those 2 programs, and build this curriculum to fill the gaps. So we spent about a year building it, rolled out the SEL curriculum this past fall. Throughout that whole time, we had also been building this partnership with the Honor Grace Project. The Honor Grace Project was actually born out of the tragedy at Sandy Hook, if you're not familiar with them. Honor Grace Marquez Green was murdered that day, and her mother founded the foundation in her honor. They really focus on relationships for kids at schools and ensuring that every kid has a strong relationship and that they feel they matter. So they focus a lot on trauma-informed care and ensuring that the staff members in schools understand what kids might be bringing to the table when they are presenting maybe different challenging behaviors. So we started working with them. We sent our administrators to a conference with them. They ended up coming to us then. We've had 2 conferences for all of our staff the past 2 years to continue to educate staff and really build the foundation for why we need this work before we just rolled it into their classrooms. And all this kind of culminates into this snapshot of a year that we prepared for you. So you can kind of see what every step kind of looks like for us as we do these different big events with our partners, continue to provide professional development. It definitely could not be one and done for us. It's ongoing. We, just like with well-managed schools, we have to provide quarterly trainings to make sure that each building still has the staff that they need to be doing this and make sure that everyone's trained as new people come in and out, people move positions, different things. And I guess we are now at the time for questions and answers. So I'm hoping you guys have some because it's still early. Yes. Yeah.
Teacher implementing this, SEL at our school, the counselors look at as those ones providing the SEL lessons. So now the teachers are doing it. How do they?
So that is actually a very thought out process as well. So going back to that partnership level, when we first started working with the Honor Grace Project, and we also work with Connecticut Health Center, CHC, all of our schools have social workers in the beginning and graduate student interns from the Honor Grace Project. So already our counselors and social workers were, they were moving into their position was changing a little bit, and that was a difficult adaptation. They almost became like the case manager for any given student. So we now have our social workers, our counselors, these community providers pushing into the classroom to provide services. So sometimes they're co-teaching, sometimes depending on what the topic is, like we mentioned that we have the sexual assault topic, a lot of the times the partners are actually pushing in, teaching that lesson, and the teacher's taking more of a back seat. So it really depends on what the content is and what's going on, but it's very much the partnership focus there.
So our district bought a program called Review 360, which is a Pearson program, and it monitors office referrals and classroom discipline referrals. It's the first time we've really had the ability to look and monitor with the same language across the entire district, every school, every building, every classroom. And one of the things that happens when you use that program is that you categorize the behavior, right? So you categorize what's happening. And you're able to pull up very closely by CASEL competencies when you look at the behaviors. So you're able to, the administrators are able to look in a classroom or kind of open up the box and say, okay, it seems as though the referrals that you've been sending to the office or the issues that you've been having revolve around being kind to others or whatever they are. Have you done those lessons? And I think that that's one of the things that's happened is we finally kind of married the 2 things with, here are the challenges and here are some solutions. So it is proactive in some of the lessons, but after the teachers teach an initial lesson on sharing, in that lesson plan, there's probably 15 extension activities that they can come and bring that up again should the students come back from art class and have argued over crayons or something, you know what I mean? So we try to make it so that once they get into that lesson, there's extension activities that they can bring up whenever they need them. A lot of, what I've seen happen in the schools is many of the teachers, after a break, will come back that first day and do these lessons. So after, whether it's 2 snow days in a row this year, or it's, you know, after Thanksgiving, after any of the holiday breaks, it's a nice way to come back because it's a very relaxed thing and they're just reading a book or they're watching someone else read a book, or there might be a little video clip. You know, Kid President is in one of the lessons where he comes up and he talks about something, and then the kid, you know, the teacher's leading a conversation about that, what he talks about. So there's, there's a ton of instruction happening, but it's not quite as blatant as some of the other things that we had looked at. It's so engaging. I taught 3 lessons pushed into classrooms and taught 3 different lessons. And, you know, the kids are up on 1 foot leaning forward. You know, they want to do the things, they want to talk about it, they want to, you know, they do that. We also, in many of our lessons, have some anchor vocabulary presentations to start at the very beginning that are picture vocabulary, because we have a huge population of English language learners, so we want to make sure that they understand what different things look like. So we found, you know, kid-friendly, either emojis or things that just help kids to visualize some of these concepts that are really difficult to understand. Pessimistic, optimistic, you know, those are tough concepts, but visually we made an effort to go find things that kids could see that to help teachers give them more resources.
Do you have any suggestions for middle schoolers to promote trust within the group so that the kids are willing to share? And that's been a real challenge for me with SEL, content with middle schoolers.
So with the advisories, the first few classes are actually team building. And again, I would say that the school that is looping with their students have found that second year, you know, having the kids for that long has really built trust. The teachers that are with a new group each year, it takes a little bit longer at the beginning. But also keeping the group smaller, you know, no more than 15 kids if you can, so that they can build trust. But team building and conversations about, you know, when you're in advisory and we're talking about these subjects, you know, kind of that.
So any other questions? Yes.
Are you for the high school? So for the high school actually, we started, again, because of the student success plan and advisor, we started back in 2012 with when the student success plan went into place. And as the years went on, we used the survey, the Search Institute survey, when our students took that, and we started, that allowed us to really delve in again using data to look at what areas did our students really need attention in. We actually pulled in some of our community partners, and they started doing lessons with our students too. So knowing the topics that really were kind of the red flags, that helped us. And the students really responded to having partners come in. It was nice for them to see someone besides their regular advisory teacher talking to them about these subjects. So that right there, I mean, that one was huge. And a lot of career pieces are done at the high school.
We were really able to tap in with our partners, Boys Town. So we had already rolled well-managed schools out at the core for all of our elementary schools. It was going really well, but we didn't know what to do with our alternative behavior setting. So we have a Sunrise program inside of our 2 elementary schools. We also have our Transition Center, which is its own building, its own separate entity. Boys Town really came in and worked with both of those programs and our middle school STEPS program at the middle school level to launch specialized classroom management. So specialized classroom management gets at those same goals, but instead of just managing behaviors and learning new behaviors, it's much more intensive.